So, My Hero Academia Season 7 has about to begun the actual war in earnest, and this episode is going to be the final setup for when we will finally get some spectacular action. So hold on to your butts because my review is about to start right now. Hey guys, how's it going? It is your boy, Manga Andrew, and I'm here to do my review for My Hero Academia Season 7, Episode 6. This was a very good episode. It does have its issues, but in this video, I'm going to go over all of the important details that you may have missed, as well as address some changes in between the manga and the anime, and point out potentially certain references that the anime is making towards the manga and vice versa. So, let's just dive right into it and really talk about the episode. Also, if you're wondering why my voice has been bad, I've been to an anime con, so my voice is a little bit but hey, I still wanted to record this video for you. And to start off, the title of this episode comes from manga chapter 345 of the same name, titled Division. And the actual episode covers 3 chapters, chapters 344, 345, and 346. And the episode actually starts off interesting, where we get a pseudo flashback that reuses some scenes that we saw in the previous episodes to pretty much begin the setup for the students learning the plan. In the manga, this is pretty much what happens, where we learn about the plan itself, but we do not learn what the actual details are until a few chapters later. In the episode, because they came in so closely, we learned about them having the plan the past few episodes, but now we're going to get the plan explained to them in earnest in this one. And with that, we do get some explanations very similar to what we had in the manga about Aoyama being told to be a part of the plan, as well as the heroes coming to a realization that the reasoning why they have been more active than usual is to try and trick All For One into thinking that they are actually not going to be doing as well as they think that they are doing, or as well as All For One thinks they are doing. And how this gets the students excited, but not as excited as the reveal of Shinzo also playing a part in the plan, as well as revealing his new ability that is supposed to be helping the heroes trick All For One. And it is explained very similarly in both the anime and in the manga how Shinzo is able to do this, where at first he was unable to cause people to speak on their own, but due to enough training, he was able to do so. And this may not seem very much plausible, but we have to remember that in the world of My Hero Academia, quirks are like muscles, and the more you exercise that muscle, the stronger it can become. And with the inclusion of quirks like Star and Stripe that can literally alter reality, there is no limit to what quirks can and cannot do. But that's not the only part of the plan that is revealed to the students themselves. They also get a reveal of who else is going to be playing a bigger role in the actual war itself, and it's going to be Monoma as well as Kurogiri. As I hinted in the last episodes, Monoma, Kurogiri, as well as Aoyama and Shinzo are going to be playing massive roles in this war, and it's revealed that Monoma in this episode, very much like in the manga, that he's going to be playing a role using his quirk to copy Kurogiri's warp gate in the next few days so that he can be a bit player within this war. And how Aoyama gets a fair amount of character development in this moment about how he believes that because of his quirk, many people didn't believe that he could be a hero, but now that he's in this war and everyone needs to play their role perfectly, that there are no bit players, there are no side characters, all of the characters are going to be, in a way, the main character of their own story. Also, something else I want to point out is a small line change between the anime and the manga, in that in the anime, when Aizawa is talking to Monoma, he talks about how his erasure is barely working with one eye. However, in the manga, he explicitly says that erasure is pretty much useless because he lost his eye. And while it is a slight change, it is a slight difference in interpretation of what these scenes mean in different medias. In one medium, Aizawa can't use this quirk at all and is essentially quirkless. In the other one, he could in essence still use his quirk, which could in a way mitigate some stuff that we get later on in the future for why Aizawa should have been able to do things. I don't think that this is going to be something that's going to come up, but it is something important to point out when it comes to how they translated this, at least for the explicit subs that I'm reading right now. We actually cut over to what we saw last episode of the heroes coming out of the portal as Monoma laughs maniacally, playing his part as he does so much love. And I will say that this is kind of the start of where this episode may take a tank when it comes to animation quality, because a lot of the animations that we get here are more or less still images, which is not necessarily a bad thing. A lot of even the best anime out there have extended scenes that really go nowhere, like with One Piece, or have a little bit more of stilted scenes with not that much animation, like with My Hero Academia or even The Way of the House Husband. And it does not mean that the animation is bad, but they were actually saving a lot more of the animation and animation quality towards the end of this episode and potentially within the next episodes to come. But even then, as the heroes emerge out of the portals, we do get a hint to what's to come, where we see that Tomura is trying to touch the ground, but is very hesitant. And later on in this same episode, he refers to that hesitation to be the, quote, other me, which could be hinting at the fact that this individual of Tomura, or Tomura for one, is going to be a different character altogether, and that there is going to be some conflict within inside of him, because potentially what he was doing in this moment was trying to activate Decay to instantly kill the heroes, but either All For One or Tomura in this moment was trying to stop them. We are actually unsure on whether or not it's going to be All For One in this moment or Tomura, but there may be indications of the splitting of this new individual being emphasized more with the later episodes. So hopefully we'll be able to get a little bit more clarification. But speaking of the heroes, we do have Dabi charging in, trying to kill all the heroes in one swoop, as we see that the students are also here, including Shoto, breaking up the power itself, as well as implementing a plan that was concocted by Nezu, as well as another individual of the support course, where giant domes build around the villains, only to capture them for a mere few seconds, which is all the seconds that the heroes need to really allow their plan to come into action. And I will say that in the anime, it pretty much explains how these little fortresses work better than in the manga, because in the manga, we just see them sliding backwards, but in the anime, we see that they're not just sliding backwards, but that they're being propelled by thrusters at the edges of the actual facilities and structures themselves. As well as throughout this entire section of the fight, we actually get a lot more interactions and a lot more scenes of All Might and Tsukachi chiming in than there were in the manga. Now, this is really just building upon the importance that these characters are when it comes to just setting up the control room area, which we're getting a lot more of it in the anime than we got in the manga. And with those added scenes, we actually get a reference to something that we see in one of the manga volumes, very specifically Manga Volume 36, where we actually get to see the map locations for where all of the heroes are going to be sent right before they're actually sent there. And in actually one of these actual scenes, we see it kind of spoils a name that we're going to get for a structure that is to hold Tomura for one, or Tomura Shigaraki. But even after all of this is happening, we do get a scene of all of the heroes pushing the villains through the portals, but unfortunately, Deku seems to have been pulled through a portal by an unknown person, and that this is going to be a major wrench in the plan that the heroes have come up with. But with that, we actually cut to a few different locations that we get to see very much within the same order as they were in the manga. We see that All For One was actually transported to the Gunga Mountain Villa area, which is very much apparent in the anime, as we get a small flashback of the location before and after its destruction, just to emphasize that they are the same location, as we have All For One monologuing as we see that his opponents are going to be Endeavor and Hawks. And you can tell that Hawks has taken some massive damage from the previous war, as his wings, even after a month's worth of time, still haven't fully grown back and are very much like ragged as well as just disformed. As we see that he delivers a massive attack on All For One, as All For One just chastises both Endeavor and the heroes for splitting them up, even though their forces are just as much weakened after losing so many heroes. And as it gets to a great transition into All For One talking about Endeavor not fighting against Dabi and sending Shoto against him, where we cut over to the scene of Shoto and Dabi walking towards each other at ground zero, where the All Might statue is, where the Kamino incident occurred. This scene did cause some controversy because it's very much different from the anime to the manga when it comes to how the characters are positioned, the angles, and the potential interpretation of those angles between the anime and the manga. But me personally, I think that the anime still did something amazing with it. It may not be the exact same scene as in the manga, but it still does give that aura as well as just that presence that Dabi and Shoto had in this moment, and gives this moment its grave importance for what's to come within the next few episodes. But going from there, we also get the location for where Best Jeanist, Bakugo, Mirko, Tamaki, and Nejire are. Because as Bakugo is telling Best Jeanist what is happening, we get the scene of Deku being pulled to a brand new location where Toga was brought to, where we have Deku, Uraraka, and Froppy going up against Toga, as Toga was the one that pulled Deku through the portal, but unfortunately Deku's danger sense did not go off. And this is something that is going to be built upon within the next episode, but getting towards the end of this episode is where we really get more of the action that you are looking for from this season. Because we do see a lot of cool action with Tomura using decay, but then the decay bursts through the floor. Tomura gets sent to the electrification fence as Best Jeanist grabs him, slams him to the ground, as you see Mirko coming in, charging in with attacks. And like I said, this is the moment where Tomura was talking about his other me, but this is where, as I was saying, the name of this area is the Coffin in the Sky, which is sort of going to be Tomoe Shigaraki's burial ground based off the explanation that the heroes are giving. But what is even more important is just the explanation of what's going on and how this is functioning, and how they have characters such as Momo, as well as Lunch Rush, as well as the individual who was the leader of the support course, Power Loader, all being shown either in the series itself during the moment or in flashbacks, participating in the construction and the creation of the idea of the UA Flying Fortress. And how the scenes that we saw in the last episodes, including Mei Hatsume, was hinting at the fact that they were going to use the technology used for the Tomoe Shigaraki decaying system detection and applied it to UA to allow it to fly, but also to send the flying panels up so that they won't allow for decay to perpetuate throughout the grounds. And I like how it's done using flashbacks that we've seen prior, if not in this season, within the past few seasons, and how this is the episode that probably used the flashbacks the most and the most effectively. But yes, with that Coffin in the Sky being explained, we also get a little bit more understanding of where certain characters are within the anime itself versus what we got in the manga. Very specifically, Fukadashi as well as Kaminari and their location as the power source is pretty much explained to be within that dome shelter on the outskirts of UA, where it wasn't clearly depicted when it came to the actual manga itself. And yeah, the episode is coming to an end with a few more added action sequences with Mirko, Bakugo, as well as Nejire, along with the reveal that Aizawa, Monoma, as well as Manuel are there, using Monoma to copy erasers so that Shigaraki Tomura will no longer be able to use their quirks. With a big reveal that as Mirko is attacking, Tomoe Shigaraki is able to use a mound of hands coming out of him to heavily damage Mirko, to the chagrin of all the heroes, not knowing what this is, as we have Tomoe Shigaraki's final words saying that he once thought Aizawa was cool, but now he's disappointed as the episode ends. And pretty much the next chapter is going to be focusing on the fight within the UA Fortress, as well as potentially the love confession of Tomura to Deku, as well as the love confession of Toga to Deku, and where that's going to go with the story moving forward. But yeah, that's everything that I wanted to talk about for this review of this episode of My Hero Academia. I thought that this was still a very solid episode to build up for what's to come, and I think that with its shortcomings when it comes to lack of visual animation or peak animation as some people may call it, I still think this is a solid episode. But hey, what did you think? Did you like this episode? Did you dislike this episode? And what was your favorite part? Leave your thoughts down below, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more content like this. So do all that cool jazz, and hopefully I'll be able to catch you in my next video. Goodbye!